Welcome, everyone, to episode 193 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pantelleresco. I Write Stuff Podcast 2. Today, my guest is the one and only Marie Bilodeau. And I have a confession I have to make before we continue. During this conversation, me and Marie, I think, kind of started a cult. It's not like nothing evil, really. It is a chocolate oatmeal raisin. That's an optional part. Cookie cult. It is the chocolate oatmeal cookie cult with a raisin there. So it's called Quark. It's something we kind of started in our conversation. It kind of happened. It wasn't planned. It's just kind of one of those things we just kind of went with and we rolled with. So this is also, as much as it is about a podcast featuring an awesome, talented writer and organizer who happens to be at Oats CanCon, which is a really good show. This is also, a cult advertisement. I'm sorry. I mean, I know oatmeal raisin cookies are okay, but oatmeal chocolate cookies are the shiz. They really, really are the shiz. So both are being featured here. It's the oatmeal cult, I think, all at the end of it. I don't know. It just, yeah, so this is a bit of a flyer, a bit of a campaign. It's a little bit on the fly. I hadn't really thought this through very hard, as you can see listening to this. But, yeah, so enjoy our interview, enjoy the propaganda, and I'll recruit you after the conversation. How's that sound? All right? All right.
For real this time, so now it's officially on. So anything you say will go, and you'll have to live with the consequences of your words, whatever those words may be.
I want you to know that I always think after I talk, so no worries.
I think I'm going to like you. That's really, really good.
I think we're going to get along just fine.
That's totally, it's like, excellent. Yes, that is totally how I want to do things. And I see I already got you in a relatively good mood this morning, so thank you very much for coming on my show. So how is life today?
Life is actually quite excellent today, in no small part thanks to being on your show today. So thanks for having me.
I'm still getting used to that kind of thing. People are happy to come on my show now, which is actually a weird thing to
How were they before?
Well, it's funny because this is kind of what happens. I don't know like how it was like with you writing. Like, you just minding your business. I don't think people hated coming on my show. But like, oh, who's this guy? And what the hell, a podcast? What the hell are we going to talk about? It's like, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. Okay. And then they go on the show and they have a good time and it's good. Now it's like, oh my God, I'm going to be on your show. It's like, oh wow. When did this happen?
Well, that's nice to hear. That means you've been doing good work and it's been noticed. So that's nice to hear.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? It's just like, so I'm still, there's those moments where you get like this weird imposter syndrome. It's like, who, me? Oh, yeah, it is me. Cool.
I completely understand that.
Yes. I mean, I was looking, like, you're a freelance writer, but you've also organized some events, and you were pumping yourself up, like, vote for me, it's yours, let's do this. And by the way, congratulations for being nominated.
Thank you, you as well.
Yeah. So, let's see, how do, I'm assuming you had grandiose writing plans a long time ago before you got into organizing events. So what made you decide, like, I'm going to take my words and I'm going to make zillions and zillions of dollars doing this?
That's a good question. I guess it's like most authors, right? It's like I've always wanted to try writing, and I always told stories, and I'm a professional storyteller too, so I perform stories as well. And I've always written a little bit here and there, but it was more of a hobby thing until when I ended university in 2000 now. And I told one of my friends, said, well, what are you going to do now? Because I did a degree in archaeology and religion and culture, ergo, I was not going to work in my fields. And he asked what I would do, and I said, I think I'm going to try writing. And then he said, in a very down tone, he said, well, maybe you should actually put down some words. And I was like, hey, wait, that's a good point. I should actually write to be a writer. So I started writing seriously. I went to workshops, to conferences, to conventions, and I just learned the craft. I got the books, and then my first book came out in 2008, and they've been rolling out ever since. So I guess it kind of went on from there. But I can't say that there was that rise to the challenge, of course, which I can't help but bite when somebody throws a nice hook my way. But there was also just a desire to get stories out there. That's always been there.
Yeah, well, actually, when you told me your background, archaeology and religion, I'm like, well, yeah, no, that actually makes sense, because archaeology or history of any kind is really trying to understand our stories, like where we came from and where we're going. And religion's actually the same thing if you really sit there and think about it. Whether you believe in God or not, I mean, a lot of where we come from comes from a religious background. There's almost a mystical part to our origins. Even now, with everything we're doing, I mean, we still really don't have a clue, which is actually, I think, a hilarious thing.
It's part of the fun, too. One of the things I love exploring in fiction was I looked a lot at, not surprisingly, I suppose, the cross-sectionalities between religion, history, and archaeology. And a lot of it is all that, like, we never really have the full story, right? We never really know where things are. We take best guesses. We fill in the gaps. We try to find the answers, but we don't, because they're not necessarily there. They were in someone's head who died thousands of years ago. And I love exploring in my stories that idea of that they'll never really know, like, okay, 2,000 years ago this happened and it has ramifications now, but you'll never really know what happened because there's no time travel spell in this particular story, and you can't capture an entire moment that way. So I find that fascinating. I completely agree with you. We can learn so much from looking back, but understanding that we can never get that full picture.
Well, it's actually interesting because I wrote a epic poetry series, The Watcher, Stormdancer, and The Wandering God, and book 2 is Stormdancer. And I was thinking, like, where would our temples be? And actually, I came to the conclusion in the far future, where you're going to find the most about us is going to be our garbage, right? And then, right, because that's going to be where everything is. They're going to look at this, and they're going to, I mean, how would they look at our garbage and our dumps and all that stuff? Because, I mean, grant you a few hundred years from now, some of that stuff will be completely assimilated into the ground. I mean, I'm going to imagine that like one day when we're done doing all this stuff, there's going to be some exceptionally healthy stuff, or some weird looking trees in like 500 years with all the junk we put in the ground. But on the same token, it's like I came to this interesting thought, because there was this one scene where I actually had the artist that I had draw the series. She did a Pez dispenser, and I thought, this is actually probably the closest thing to the truth. We look at a lot of religious artifacts, right? And I was like, what if it was just as simple as the fact that once upon a time there was a parent that had kids and bought toys, and we think of them as religious artifacts. I actually enjoy that thought a lot.
Me too. I think that's one of the jokes with archaeology. I specified in Near Eastern archaeology, and it's like, if we don't know what it is, it's a religious figure. It could be a toy, it could be a gift to someone, it doesn't matter. It's all religious figure.
Yes.
that's the joke, right? I mean,
well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I thought about that. It's like, what is what are the inexplainable things for us in the future? And I'm like, Pez. There's just there's no way that the future is going to get Pez, like, at all.
We barely get it now, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, just one of those things, like, Pez. Lego they'll get it. They connect blocks, you're like, ooh, this is fun. And then they'll reinvent Lego because Lego's awesome. But Pez, like, no, there's no way 100 years, or even 200 years from now, people are going to get, like, what are these mysterious little animals with nothing inside them? This is where we ate candy from. Really? He's like, yes, you guys were strange. Yes, we were. There's no answer.
I like it. I love it.
Yeah, that's how my brain works. That's just how it goes. So, like, but like I said, so I'm also glad that we don't have all the answers. We honestly, I don't think ever should have all the answers. Life, I mean, where would life be if there was no mystery? Because if there was no mystery, there would be no magic to anything.
I agree, and I think the clearest sign that we don't have all the answers is that not everybody is on the same wavelength on most things. If there was one brilliant, obvious answer, then people would generally jump on it. But I'm always very suspicious of people who say they have all the answers. Very suspicious.
So when people knock on your door and they go, "Hey, have you tried this book of what?" No, it's like, "Oh no, not again."
I usually do enjoy engaging them, but I'm generally an extrovert working from home in my basement, right? So, hey, somebody wants to talk to me about stuff. Did they bring cookies? Are the cookies poisoned? I'll find out. I mean, that's not a good thing to admit.
Note to self: if you want to introduce yourself to Marie, bring cookies, chocolate chip or like oatmeal or.
Yes, you're singing the song of my people. That's a beautiful thing. Oatmeal chocolate chip. There you go.
Okay. So, note to self, because there is a chance I'm going to be in Ottawa in a few weeks. Just passing through. If I want to meet Marie, bring cookies. She'll love me. Okay, gotcha.
Exactly. As simple as that.
Jeez. Well, I now know how to rob you. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid.
Oh, I'm happy that this means I might get cookies. Good.
Okay, I'm going to ask, and this is going to probably be the toughest question I ask you on the show. Are you ready?
Shoot.
Cookies or ice cream?
Ooh.
See, I told you that was going to be tough.
It's a tough one, but I think just for practicality reasons, I'm going to go cookies.
Okay.
Because then you don't even have to have the difficulty of how to carry it, how to get it to me, like not melted. Like, I'm making it easier for you, really, because I'm a very giving person when I accept cookies.
Yes, right. I'm a very giving person. I'm accepting cookies for you, not for me.
This is for your well-being, too,
Note to self, possibly I'm interviewing the Cookie Monster. Gotcha.
C is for cookie, my friend.
Okay, fair enough. So we've talked about Pez, Cookie Monsters, and Magic and Mystery in 10 minutes. I have to admit, I did not expect this conversation to go this way.
Me neither, but I'm really enjoying it.
Yes. Well, yeah, I talked about bribing you with food. You're already like, I'm in. I don't know where this is going, but I'm in.
Just bring the food, and this is not hard.
Coffee and cookies. Ideal date with you. I got you.
Exactly. You already understand the deepest core of my soul.
Yeah.
So right there, I mean, you've got it all. You've captured it all.
Dang. I didn't think it would be this easy. You know what I mean?
Why make it more complicated? There's enough complicated in the world, right?
Oh, there's tons of complicated in the world. I was reading, and this is where I might get a little depressing, so we might not stay on this topic too long. I was just reading the other day with the however he got in your Donald Trump light premiere, I think it is, with the university stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. George Orwell called. He wants his ideas back. I'm just happy he hasn't read George Orwell's essays, because those are really depressing. Everybody thinks 1984 is a depressing book. It's like, no, that's actually him being optimistic. Read his actual essays on government manipulation. You will need a drink.
You need one right now. Just think about it. Yes, I have read some of them. They're amazing and terrifying all at once.
Yeah, no.
And not recent, which is even scarier.
Well, no, actually, it's really interesting to me, because here's the other thing, too, about the last century. Depending on when you, like, there's Orwell, there's Mencken, there's a lot of thinkers from the early 20th century who would look at today and be like, what else is fucking new? It's like, that's literally what they would say. Yeah, it's just you read that, you're like, oh, history has repeated itself. The only thing now is we have apps for this now. That's the difference. It's like, I have an app for this, totalitarianism. Yeah.
Are you joining this regime? Not today, thank you.
Are there cookies? Well, we never thought that far ahead, actually.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know if the dark side offers cookies. It depends which dark side still. Even some cookies are not worth your soul, my friend.
Okay, got you. So no, if I ever start a cult, we'll use cookies or ice cream or possibly dress up like a pirate. Any of those three things, right? People would
And
just
catchy marketing material, like soul-saving stuff and all that. People love that.
yeah, Well, no, just like or I do what I did at When Worlds Collide and make people read Dr. Seuss out loud because no one takes you seriously when you do that.
Oh, that's so sweet. Which Dr. Seuss did you read?
Oh, two of them because I was evil: Box and Socks and Say or Don't Say. So this is where it got good. Like I did it. I made the whole group try to go through the tongue twisters, and when you see, it's because I am that demented and twisted.
Well done.
Yes, but then they offered to come up and then they decided to read Box and Socks in different voices. There was a Yoda voice, a Russian voice, a Jewish voice. Then there was a Valley Girl. Then there was a British voice, and it was hilarious for like 30 minutes. That was my panel at When Worlds Collide. I made grown-ups read Dr. Seuss, and it was hilarious.
That sounds like a lot of fun, I won't lie.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Oh, it was better than I could have imagined. I was like, is anyone going to show up to this? Yes. Apparently, yes. Is anyone going to play? I go, the very first question I asked, who wants to play? Everybody puts their hand up. It's like, wow, this is a good problem to have, but I'm not sure what to do here.
That's funny. I love it. I host this thing. We should combine at some point powers. I host this thing at CanCon, which is called the Paper Airplane Competition.
Nice.
Which it doesn't sound very insane, but I've turned it into like this to the death you must sing to earn your paper competition with people who'll try to take down your plane, who'll judge you on random things, a bribing system, and some really shitty prizes at the end. Like you combine that with some Dr. Seuss, and I think you have magic. Quite frankly.
Well, so next year I'm going to be doing something called the Stitch and Seuss, which is I'm going to have a whole bunch of Dr. Seuss books there, and the contest will be you can read any book you want, any pages you want. You can't do it in a normal voice. You can sing it, slam it, do a different voice. You can be, but the whole point is to be as goofy as possible for an hour. And
nice.
Yeah, well, see, I learned something very early on in my writing career, and I've applied this to any kind of my marketing. You know what? No one, absolutely no one, wants to buy anything. However, there is not a soul alive or a soul I want to know personally that does not want to play. So, right? Because if they don't want to play, do you really want to know them? I mean, I'm being honest here, right? And it's much better. It's much better to, if you're gonna do something with, like, even when I think about promoting my books now, I look at it like, can I make it a game? Because if I can make it fun, people will do it.
I love it. I think that's smart. Yeah, I try. I always see it as an entertainment art with the social media and all that. It's like I'm here to entertain people, not to.
I talk
part of the fun.
I talk about Bailey's and ice cream and spreading chaos and mayhem on my social media. That's kind of what I do. So
that's a beautiful thing. The world needs more of that.
It does. It truly does. One person, people are like, I see this, like, there's so much negativity on social media, and I go to respond, but I'm just talking about Bailey's and ice cream. I mean, who doesn't like Bailey's and ice cream?
Yeah, exactly. Just come on my feed and have some fun.
Yeah, that's it. No, life's too short. Like, life is amazing to me because I learned this also as a kid. If you want to discourage something, don't participate. Honestly, that's actually the secret. If you are willing to, shut down something, I realized, like, really early on with Mr. Trump, is that his real power is he has the ability to keep attention on him, and the reason and the way he does it is to be as outrageous as possible. So the solution to actually deal with him is remote control and hitting the power button.
Especially since he's so obsessed with ratings.
Exactly. Well, that's his real power. Like, I tell you one, he knew how to play television better than anybody else. That was his real power. So if you take away that toy, he actually just is an obnoxious slide man in his corner. You just give him a dunce cap and you've taken care of him. You know what I mean? And that's all it really takes. But what's happened now is like people, and I've seen this with a lot of different things going on right now. Like there's a thing called Comicsgate going on right now. Some really douchey people, and I'm like, all your power just comes from the fact that you just go out of your way to be as mean and as abusive as possible. If people tunes you off, you probably would just deal. Like they probably would go into the little corner and, melt. I actually think they'd almost be like the Wizard of Oz. You throw water on the witch, she disappears. Just turn it off and it just gets smaller and smaller until it's gone.
It's a bit like they say with social media, right? You have the echo chambers where when you scream something into an echo chamber of your creation, meaning that you have all these people who are like-minded, then your screams get amplified, which echoes back at you, right?
Yes.
But then the people who aren't like you don't necessarily see you or hear you. So I think the echo chamber effect is interesting in that level. But you make me think, and you make me want to ask this of you, though. What do you think of, like, optimism in writing? Like, because I've been reading a lot about what's it called, solar punk? Where it's like optimism. I don't know if you've heard of it, like optimism in science fiction, which is like, let's fight back the dread and the grim dark and all of that by bringing that.
Why not? Look, okay, I'm a Dr. Seuss fan. and I mean, in a serious, I'm gonna be serious about this for a minute. If you sit there and think about it, I'm a comic book guy at heart. If you look at Dr. Seuss, he is arguably the greatest graphic novelist of all time. I honestly think you can make a compelling argument that if you were to compare a comic book to what Seuss does, it's not that different. And Seuss sells millions of books even now to this day. So what does that tell you? People like optimism. But then the other thing that a lot of people don't recognize about Seuss, or right away until you really read his stuff, right? Seuss, right, dealt with dark stuff. He didn't shy away from the dark stuff. He just dealt with it in an optimistic way. The truth of the matter is, I mean, optimistic fiction can work. You just can't deny the darkness. Like, it's there. And as long as you're willing to do that, you can go any way you want it to go. Look, American television tends to go for happy endings. Why? Right? Because people want a happy ending. People always want a happy ending. At least in Western culture. Like other countries do have different endings, and sometimes those really work. Like, there's some really beautiful sad endings out there. But when you sit there and think about how, like, from the formula of what constitutes a good television show or a good movie over here, they always go for the happy ending. The only difference really between them and a more optimistic fiction is what's emphasized, right, on the journey. Where, like, an optimistic point of fiction doesn't necessarily dwell on the darkness the same way, right? But it's still there. And I think good ones, you can't have sunshine without shadow. You just can't. And vice versa. If you're all shadow, then no sunshine, what the fuck's the point? Right? I can write depressing stuff too, or I can listen to depressing stuff. Old school country music, it's quite depressing. Right? I mean, it's and there are other epics out there that also are quite sad. I'm a little bit, I like seeing optimistic stuff, and not just in fiction, but in real life too. I research stuff all the time. Some of it frightens the shit out of me. I'm looking at nanotechnology and what it can do to the human body, and I'm like, it's not cool at all. But on the flip side, you can use that same technology. You can use that, see that technology. You can use it to build things and do incredible things. I mean, I could see a day where we don't have a manufacturing sector at all, based on what I'm learning about this. I mean, everything, we are literally, depending on your point of view, we are literally coming into a world of ideas made life. And if that's the case, the real battle for today and going forward is the struggle to maintain that anything truly is possible, because honestly, the tools are there now, right? They're just going to be more amplified as time goes on. So if anything, what we believe is possible is going to be more important now than it ever was.
Just where we can go and where we want to go to, because there's a matter of what is possible and what choices
That's it, exactly.
we make as well.
No, that's totally it. So that's the real battle today. Like everything that's going on right now, everything can be boiled down to really two things. Is this all there is, or is there more? That's the real battle. And if you can dream for more and what is possible, you can overcome what is here now. You can create any kind of future you want. That is actually an amazing thing, an amazing time we live in. Just with the tools we have today. And a lot of people take it for granted. Look, I record my conversations generally on my phone. What's the phone today? It's a tricorder from Star Trek. Just about, anyway.
Yeah, and you have the tablets that are from Star Trek too, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, and we can talk. Like, the fact that you and I are talking, you are literally, physically, about 2,000, maybe 2,500 kilometers from me. Easily, right? Mm-hmm. This is absurd to think about even 10 years ago. Or even maybe 11 years ago now. This is absurd to think about. Today is commonplace. So we can talk to each other. We can laugh with each other. I can bribe you with cookies from here. This is awesome. I can do that. Right?
And it's interesting to see how the technology is becoming more and more accessible as well. Because even, people in different countries, in developing nations, people who are lower on the social economic scales, like they're not fully accessible yet, but they're getting more and more accessible. And the more this technology can be used to share, the more that it becomes more powerful at that point, which is, I think, amazing on the optimism scale as well.
Well, like you said, like we literally are coming to an age where anything is actually possible. Good, bad, or indifferent, that is the age we're coming into. Intellectual property is going to be the final frontier. Really think about that for a minute. Right?
But there are so many pirates already.
I know! But that's part of it, right? Like intellectual...
And that can be part of your cult.
Yes. You like where I'm going with this.
I saw the go around there. You're working on your marketing material for the cult. I can follow this.
It's gonna be cookies. They're gonna be shaped like thought bubbles, like comic book thought bubbles. And so I'll be like, you can do it.
Okay, where do I sign up?
I had my first convert, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't mean to start a cult, but I kind of accidentally did.
Well, sometimes these things happen.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. Jeez. But I have to think about this now. What the hell am I going to call it? How am I going to push it? Do I go door to door? Do I just do it like email? Is there an app for it? I need to think about that stuff.
It's hard now. You've got the big questions to ask suddenly. This isn't just a thought exercise anymore. This is a thing.
Yeah, I know. Jeez.
Treat it like a thing.
I should. If the cult of whatever the hell I'm going to call this, because I'm certainly I am an egomaniac, but I'm not quite that egomaniacal to call it by my name. No. I don't know. Hey, we're writers. We're open megalomaniacs. Sit there. If you sit there and think about what we do, we literally create worlds from our heads and we make them somewhat real, whether it's on paper, whether it's on television, movies, or video games, or whatever the case may be. I mean, someone had the audacity to go like, let's make this real. Right? So there's always a little bit of megalomaniacal, there's that impulse in us somewhere, somehow, some way. So, and I'm being openly honest about that because I know who I am as a person, but I'm not quite that much of an egomaniac to go, you know what, I'm going to name everything after me. That requires a certain, what's the term? Mediocrity of the soul to do that. It really, really does. The Church of blah blah. It's named after you. Yes. I am compensating for things. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this makes me comfortable. You're just going to have to deal with it.
Yes. That's right. Right. No, it's just like this is man. How did we get here? I don't know, but it's.
But this is where we are.
Yes, this is. But going back to the point, like no, if we had the potential in the next 10, 20, if you sit there and think about it, we are either going to go into this amazing renaissance of ideas and possibilities, or we're going to go down a very dark road, and there's no middle ground, and that's the real battle today, right? And to win that battle, or to go down renaissance, is we have to keep our freedoms open, because the tools are there, right? So the real struggle there is, then if the tools to create anything is there, you gotta give people the belief too that they can create anything they desire.
The belief, the skill set as well, the time,
yes,
the space, like the headspace as well. It's like it makes me think of Virginia Woolf in her essays about, a woman needs time and a room to write, to be able to share her words. And I think it's the same thing, right? If you have all of this potential, which is great and intimidating all at once, but unless you have the social supports to help people achieve that potential, all peoples, then all of those ideas will be lost. It's like I don't know if you're familiar with Saint-Exupéry, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry.
No, I'm not.
He's a great author, and he's been actually you would know him from he's the one who wrote The Little Prince.
Okay.
So he has this one book, Terre des Hommes. I have no idea how it's translated into English, but it ends. It's this beautiful philosophical world. He was a World War II pilot, and in this one piece, he ends it with, and I'm paraphrasing and translating all at once, so this is going to be completely garbled, but he's in this train, and he's looking around him at this world of possibilities, right? This land that is changing, that the world is becoming different than it ever was because the war is changing the landscape, and peace will change it once more. And then he's in the train, and he's looking around him at everyone, the refugees, the people escaping everything, and he looks at this one child who's, he's got wonder in his eyes, and he's got hope, and he's got the sight for tomorrow and belief in things that might be. And then beside him are his two parents who have rough hands, obviously farm workers, the dress, the look of it, and the kid would grow up to become, because that's what happened, right, would grow up to become a farm worker. And then the book ends on this note of, the child. I look at the child, and it reminds me in each of the potential that is lost in each of us, because we can't reach it in our lifetime. And in all of us, there is un Mozart assassiné, an assassinated Mozart. The potential that just could never come to be. And it's that idea that I always think about when we talk about this endless potential. And I agree completely, but it's like we've got to make it possible for the people, the Mozarts out there who just don't have the time or the career choice or the skill set or the supports to be able to pursue that. We've got to give them that and give everyone that, because everyone has Mozart inside of them to a certain degree. The artist, not Mozart necessarily, because that's cannibalism and that's wrong. But it just makes me think of that. If we're going into the philosophy of it, I think it's absolutely amazing. You merge technology with the correct social supports, and bam, that's that magical explosion.
No, it's true. Although if you want a really depressing thought, we have all breathed in and out Hitler. So if you want it's a really morbid thought. There you go for the day.
So who do you want to fan to life within you then? A little bit of Mozart or a little bit of Hitler?
That's well, and the answer is usually somewhere in our lives a bit of both. I mean, we don't have, like I said, you cannot deny we cannot deny our own natures, good, bad, or indifferent. And I think what I have observed today, and this is going to sound like a little bit like I'm talking on my ass a little bit, because if I have all these answers, why aren't I applying? Well, I am applying them. I'm just applying them to me, and I'm just going my way. I'm just trying to.
It's the only thing we can do a lot of times.
Well, yeah. Well, what I've learned is we all are going to face our own personal darknesses, demons. We're gonna rise. We're going to fall. And all along this way, it's just a wild journey. And the question the only real choice we have when you really sit there and think about it is this: how are we going to let the changes around us change us? That is the only real choice we have. Everything else, is like rain. It's going to fall wherever the damn well pleases, and you can let it consume you, destroy you, and it will destroy you no matter which way you go in some ways. But in another way, it will shape you, make you stronger, make you, it can change you to become something better and greater and nobler than what you were before as well. My worst moments have made it so that I cannot hide from who I am, good, bad, and indifferent. And I learned an awful lot in those really, really bad moments, right? And I let that try to change me, hopefully for the better. I think most of the time I succeed that way. Every once in a while I strike out. But again, I'm not perfect, right? I mean, that's why I can't name a cult after myself. I'm just not that.
No cult leader has ever been perfect, my friend.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But I mean, I just recognize that, like, this is one giant journey. The only thing we can control is how we let these changes change us. So I think the real challenge for tomorrow is to, like, teach people that no matter what, they are good enough to let good things happen in their lives. I think that's the first thing. Because here's the other thing I noticed too. I'm chasing my dreams at 36 years old. I'm still writing. I'm still doing this. I'm doing a podcast that apparently people think I'm good at, and I recognize that the only difference between me and somebody else is I've had the audacity to do it. That's it. That is the only real difference. And because I've had friends come to me, it's like, I was taught you can do anything you want to do, but what they don't say is that's actually only half of what they were taught. The other half they were taught was, if you're good enough, if you have that piece of paper that says you're good enough, or if you have permission. And you don't actually need permission. And I recognize that at a very early age.
It's true. It's a bit like was T.S. Eliot said in The Hollow Man, between the intention and the action falls the shadow. Yeah. It's easy to have the intention, but actually pulling it through, actually, like you said, intending it and then making it happen. That's where a lot of people fail. It's a bit like finishing a book. Most people don't get published because they never actually finish their book, and then they don't do the work to make the book publishable. They don't, like, you have to always keep, and you know this as well as I do, you have to always keep moving forward, and there's always another step. And there's this idea that someday I'll reach the top of the mountain. Well, that there is no top to this mountain. It is called life. You keep on going up, or when you're too tired, you just let yourself roll, and that's fine too. But there's always another step. You get published, you've got your marketing to do, then you have your second book to write, and then you have that marketing to do, and then you have something else to do, and then you have other commitments, other requests, and it always grows and it balloons out, as opposed to giving you might get a plateau, but you probably want to keep climbing if you're plateauing.
Well, if you're plateauing, then at that point you have to look in the mirror and go, okay, do I want to keep doing this? There's a certain point, like I can always see myself doing interviews. I've done almost 200 episodes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. No one's more shocked than I am.
That's brilliant, though. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. But, like, will I do 1,000? I don't know if I'm going to do 1,000. Will I do 300? Probably. But I mean, who can say where this will this go with me? And same with my books. I got 3 books out. I want to do more books. I have one almost ready to go. I have another one that I think is big 5 good, and this has been the crazy one I've been writing the last 2 weeks. Because I said to myself, my own words came back to haunt me. A friend of mine is really excelling in a career she's pursuing. It's writing related. And I gave her advice. It's like, one day you're going to wake up and you say, you know what, let's just fucking go for it and see what happens. Literally 1 week later, I wake up and go, you know what, let's just go for it and see what happens. I ate my words. It's like...
That's good. You gotta take those jumps, right?
Well, yeah, well, absolutely. It's one of those things where it's like, well, the other thing too, like, this is the cool thing about what's happened to me this year. I didn't, like... I've said this on a few other podcasts when I've interviewed Aurora, nominated a few of the Aurora nominees I've posted so far, is I didn't nominate myself for the award. Someone else threw my name in the hat, and enough people said, "Hey, he is good enough. Let's make him a finalist." I'm like, that's a huge compliment. I'm like, if people believe in me enough for this, what if I took this opportunity to really try to make a leap? Because I can. I mean, and really, if I don't succeed, it's not the end of the world. You know, I can always try again next year or the year after and the year after. But I mean, I just actually take that leap, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? If the opportunity is there, I remember 4 years ago. Yeah, just over 4 years ago, I was finishing an event. I mean, I did event management communications work for like a long time, and I just finished managing this giant event, and it was huge. People from all over the country, and it was it had sucked up my life for at least 2 months. And I got home after the event, and I was tired, I was exhausted, and I looked around and I said, "Oh my God, I've forgotten about my life." Right? I wasn't writing anymore. I wasn't doing anything else. One of my cats came to greet me, and I'm like, "Oh, you are sick," and I should have seen this. I didn't, because I was focused elsewhere, and so I had to put the cat down, which is a great thing to do after an emotional.
I'm sorry.
Up and down. Oh, it's all good. I mean, the cat was like 18 years old too, and kind of getting creepy looking. But he was a great cat, but he was 18 and sick, and all of these
creepy looking mummified cat. Okay.
What? You what?
Creepy looking mummified cat. Okay, gotcha.
It's like couldn't hear anything anymore. Like had kidney failure. Like the thing was done, but he'd had a good life, So, but it was sad because I hadn't noticed that maybe a week ago would have been a better time. Like maybe he had crossed that threshold into he wasn't so comfortable anymore, which I tried to avoid as a pet owner. And it was one of those things like, where did I go to get here in my life? And then a few other things happened, and I just decided, what, screw it, I'm going to take a leap. I'm going to try to be a freelancer. I'm going to try to get the writing going more. I'm going to try to get the storytelling going more. And I quit my well-paying, high-profile, really kind of awesome job, and I just decided let's try something else. Let's do something else, and so I totally respect taking the leap when the opportunity is there. Now, it doesn't always work out, and sometimes it does. That's just the mentality you have to go in with it. Give it your best shot.
Well, I equate I like metal as musical. I enjoy going to metal concerts. I'm a big. I like the epic metal like Camelot, Nightwish, Blind Guardian.
Oh, nice. I love that too.
Yes, yeah. See, and so, but the thing is, I recognize if you ever actually watch a metal show, most of these guys are just going up there and jamming. There's not really a. I mean, don't get me wrong, they know what they're doing, but it's basically the attitude while they're up there. It's like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just leave it all out there, and what happens will happen. And if it's a good show, like the one show I went to a Mon Mars concert, and it was the first time. It was the first time in my life I got hit in the head with a wheelchair. Someone was actually get crowd surfing in a wheelchair all the way to the front. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yes. All of a sudden, you feel like a wheel. It's like, what the? Holy crap! There's a wheelchair above me.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's literally like that. And you go off, you watch these shows. Some of these shows, like another band I watch here locally, is called Scyther. The dude was in bare feet jamming on his guitar up there. I'm like, this is the most absurd thing I've ever seen. More power to you, buddy. Right? But it hit me like, really. If we
It hit you literally.
It literally hit me literally in more ways than one. It's okay. It's just that's a metal show for you. If you're not getting hit, you're doing something wrong. But
oh, that's funny.
Yeah. But the thing of it is, I recognize that if we approach doing things kind of like the guys at guitars do at heavy metal concerts, I think we'd be happier, even if we didn't succeed.
I agree, especially if there's crowd surfing.
Yes, totally. Which next show I go to, I'm crowd surfing. That's just the way it's going to be. I'm going to wait till the encore song, and I'm just going to go up.
And I think I think there's this kind of expectation or this idea that if you are taking the leaps, that you're not, you're taking the leap in everything. Like you're not organized, you're not, you're putting it all on the line, and I think you are to a certain degree. But I mean, I personally, and I'm not talking for anybody else who jumps into the crowd, but I know my budgets. I'm very realistic with what can I do, what can't I accomplish. That there are still boundaries within that leap, right? There are still like borders and realities.
Like for example, you do need to eat. That is an important boundary you cannot overcome.
I know, eh?
Yeah, I know. A roof over your head is nice.
Exactly.
Surprisingly not required. I'm not recommending this, mind you, but one thing I have learned in this life, there's very little you actually need. And that's actually a very important thing to understand, right? Because, I've seen the bottom too, and I'm like, it's not as scary as it seems. I mean, it still sucks, but it's not as scary as it seems. And the thing is, I mean, it's also good knowing like your limitations, what you're comfortable with, what you're uncomfortable with.
Exactly.
Right.
And what your levels are with stress too, because some people can't handle getting close to seeing the bottom, and that's okay. There is nothing. It's not a weakness. It's the reality of who you are. And if you are stressed about that bottom coming up, then you avoid seeing it so that you're more productive that way. Because whenever you're stuck in anxiety isn't really a fuel. It mostly just kind of kills inspiration often. Not always, not for everyone, of course, but for a lot of people it really does, which is okay to know. You have to really be realistic.
Yeah, although in my case it's weird because since I've seen the bottom, it not much scares me anymore. Like, nothing really scares me anymore. It's just like, it's like, seriously, I was walking home. I take like these midnight walks to 7-Eleven and grab a coffee and then head back home. And I'm on my way home getting pulled over by this cop who's trying these intimidating tactics on me, and it's hilarious because I'm like, do what you got to do. I really could give a shit, and it was literally my attitude. They looked at me and they're looking at me like, so this real top is eyeing me. I'm like, yeah, man, whatever. Let's just run my name through your system so I can get the fuck out of here. I don't really give a shit about you or anything else. Or people say, "Oh my God, it's a cop." No, I don't care. You're wasting my time. Is what you're doing, and I'm getting annoyed at you for that. And then and like I said, I just don't like things just like that. Don't faze me anymore. I've gotten to that point where it's like, okay, what am I gonna do? What waste my time? You waste my time. Fuck off.
Go away. And I think it depends too, because you mentioned like the secret words is you gave no shits, but if you like, some people will give shits about different things, so
Absolutely.
like you have to be aware of what are you giving a shit about, and then you worry about the things you give shits about and what's not worth giving shit about, and then you take the stress away from those things. And I think that you're right, there are very few things in life that are worth giving a shit about, but the bigger the stressors, I guess, the bigger like the stakes are on certain things, the higher the shits will become.
Oh no, absolutely, and that's right. We're talking about Wagnerian shit now, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where the fuck we get out of here, but I mean, okay, hold on. I get the feeling me and you would have a coffee and just be giggling like mad people wherever you are, and eating cookies and possibly doing recess at the same time. I'm not sure. You seem like someone that would enjoy the recess part of life, I think, a little bit too. So, but that's
definitely. I think we would enjoy that.
Yes, but when we get down to it, like you have to care about the result of what you're going for. You have to care. But you can't be afraid to fail. And that's really the secret, because if you're afraid to fail, you will stop yourself. And whether you realize it or not, like you cannot control how successful you become. There's no real way of doing it. But you can, however, control what you do to get in your own way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, putting your best foot out there and making sure that, you do the right steps. I think that's the only thing you can control. I do agree. Like, you can't control how the books will be received or if they'll even be published, but meeting the right people, chatting with the right people, presenting yourself well, writing the best product that you can, like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's within your control. I totally agree.
Yeah, like that's really what it's about. It's like, and not just with writing, but with life. You're like, well, what can I do to not get in my own way? That's really it. And if you can do that, now again, doesn't guarantee success. The paradox of success is you can do all the right things and still not be successful. That's the paradox of it. However, you can definitely talk yourself into failure, and then to do that, you just get in your way somehow, some way, and there's someone I was dealing with, and they're talking about trying to get connections to get into some bigger stuff. Well, I happen to have connections into bigger stuff, and I started talking to it, and I literally watched their eyes bulge. I'm like, no, let's not do that. It's like, you're not ready to go take this step yet. You're gonna get in your own way until you do. Like, you gotta learn from metal concerts. You gotta take the leap of faith, no matter what you are. Do you know Elaine Lee?
Sorry?
Do you know Elaine Lee?
Refresh my memory.
She's in a wheelchair. She lives in Calgary. You may or may not know of her. I always joke she's in a wheelchair all the time. Like, we should go to a concert together, and we should just lift you up and just ride you all the way to the front. And she's like, no. It's like,
I like her. I don't think we have had the pleasure of meeting her, but I like her already.
Yes, I call her Rockstar. It's my nickname. So hi, Elaine. But it's one of those I think what it comes down to, and this going back to our giant discussion here all the way around, is there's no we gotta know what we're uncomfortable with in a bad way and uncomfortable with in a good way, because I think discomfort's a big growing tool. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I think the real secret is we have to give ourselves the most possibilities we can to succeed, and a lot of that's just really inside believing we can go for it. And then the other end of it is trying not to get in your way doing it.
It's true, yeah. Remember that. I completely agree with you, and remember that it's not failure you should fear, nor is it success. It is inertia, because that is your greatest enemy.
That is actually the most profound thing I think we've said in this whole podcast.
Well, we talked about peasant cookies.
I know. And starting a cult and I don't think I've quite had an interview like this. But I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but this is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't know if you listen to any of my shows; it goes all over the place. But this one definitely had a unique charm to it. So I want to thank you very much for daring to be on my show and talk about peasant cookies and Recess and Dr. Seuss and T.S. Eliot, and we went all over the place, man.
We did, and I absolutely enjoyed it. Thank you so much. This was absolutely fantastic. I really appreciated it.
No, it's good. So this is what we're going to do to wrap this up. I want you to tell me what your latest book release, or because you do events as well, what's coming up. Keep in mind this will air sometime this month, because I'm going to be doing as many Aurora guests as possible. So, what are you working on, or what's coming out, either way, and how can people find you?
So the next thing I have coming out writing-wise is a short story, actually. I don't have a novel on the horizon just yet, but I do have a short story coming out in Julie Trinita's Tales of Plexus from Daw Books, which is coming out in December. So it's fun. If you liked my style, I think you will enjoy the story. And if you haven't checked out Plexus by Julie Trinita, any of her books, please do so. They're excellent. Next event that I'll be on, and I'm actually the co-chair of the event, is CanCon, so that's in Ottawa. It's October 12th to the 14th this year. We are in downtown Ottawa. We are a lot of fun. Please come on out and play. We are ever growing. And if you want to learn more about me or follow me, find me on social media. Don't be shy. My website is www.mariebilodeau, mariebilodeau.com. I'm there, and I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. So come and find me, and we will have fun together.
That's right. Cookies and Pez all the way.
Cookies and Pez. Exactly. You get it.
I totally do. All right, hold on a sec here.
I had such a blast talking to Marie, so thank you very much for coming on my show. CanCon is this October. I wish I could go this year. I really do. I'll be back on my day job at that point. Boo! Also, I got this show going on the 11th of October. It's kind of important. My sister's doing an art show. She's asked me very nicely to read stuff. I will do so because I am her brother and I love her, and I know she's going to kill it. So that's going to be there. Outside of that, though, it's been totally fun indoctrinating you guys in the great oatmeal chocolate cookie cult with raisins sprinkled on the side. It's truly wish you would join us. It's great. There's lots of oatmeal chocolate cookies involved. So I hope you're hungry after listening to this episode. I want to thank Marie. Good luck to you at the Royal Awards. I hope it goes well. And beyond all that, guys, thank you very much for listening to my show. That'll do it for another episode of Just Joshing. If you like this podcast, you do a whole bunch of different things to help support it. You can subscribe to it on iTunes, Podomatic. I'm on the podcast app on your iPhone, so you can find me that way. Subscribe to it there. Say nice things, pass me along. Number 2, you can buy my books, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, Wandering God, Curse of Mirrorworld Publishing. They just redesigned the store. They got a cool little deal going on. Check them out, mirrorworldpublishing.com. Beyond all that, you can also find my YouTube channel, Joshua Penteloresco. I'm on Twitter at jpenteloresco. You can, just come say hi, chat, what's up. I goof off like this in real life too, I promise. Alright, but beyond all that, thanks very much for listening. Stay inspired out there, join the cult, and I'll see you next time.
Josh.